Her job. Wow, it seems that the Blues brothers were indeed correct. It is more cost-effective to maintain the current situation. Since I had my own business and she didn't have a job, it was expected that alimony would be part of the arrangement. I had two individuals whom I cared for deeply, more than anything else in the world. As a result, I had to provide financial support for them, and it was incredibly difficult not being able to spend time with them. Furthermore, if she desired to pursue a more aggressive approach, she could potentially claim a significant portion of my business instead of receiving alimony. I would only be left with around 30% of my earnings to sustain myself. I left the lawyer's office feeling extremely down. As usual, Charlene was ahead of me by a few steps when I caught up to her. I've been engaged in this for 8 months and it hasn't caused any harm to our relationship. He's a remarkable partner, not superior, not more endowed, just unique. It would be difficult for me to make a choice between the two of you if I had to. However, I strongly advise you to carefully consider your actions. It might be wise to consult with a legal professional. Our separation would undoubtedly lead to a very difficult situation for you, and I would ensure that it remains that way. I observed her while she remained composed on the couch, narrating my recent experiences. Who was this individual? She certainly wasn't my wife, the woman I had been in a committed relationship with for 14 years, the woman I relied on and trusted more than anyone else in my entire life. I'm glad I won't have to be secretive anymore. You'll still be my top priority, but I won't ignore Jim either. He has his own needs, just like you. I'll figure out a schedule. That was all I heard before I decided to leave. She continued to follow me, making loud noises, until we reached the outdoors. However, she quickly fell silent upon spotting Mrs. Roseman, the kind elderly woman who resided 2 houses away. I smiled and nodded as Charlene turned back into the house, calling me to come inside. She kept her eyes on me as I drove away. I was away for 2 days. The smug expression on her face upon my return nearly tempted me to change my mind. The girls were very affectionate towards me, and I enjoyed spending time with them until it was time to go to bed. They were maturing quickly, at ages 13 and 11. After consulting with the lawyer, I made the difficult decision to face the situation head-on, at least for the time being. After everyone had gone to bed, she kindly brought me a refreshing beverage. I placed it on the table. I would never drink anything she offered me again. I'm relieved that you've reconsidered. I had faith in your decision-making abilities. Our routine will remain unchanged, and we'll keep everything discreet. The only modification will be that I'll have a date one night every weekend and return home quite late. However, rest assured that I will be home, so we won't cause any concern for our daughters. She leaned back, wearing her usual self-satisfied expression. I swiftly removed that expression from her face using the well-practiced speech I had prepared. Who said I had a change of heart? Here's the plan. I'll stick around for the next 4 years and 8 months, until Marissa reaches 18, then I'll leave. Darcy will be just over 16, so she should be able to handle it, hopefully. She might decide to live with me. Either way, I won't be around. I took a moment to catch my breath, then continued speaking before she had a chance to respond. From now on, I have decided to leave behind any past experiences that do not align with my values. Even if you were to end your current relationship, I would not be interested in pursuing a romantic connection with you. That chapter of my life is closed indefinitely. I have made a personal choice to refrain from engaging in intimate relationships with individuals who have multiple partners while being married. As a result, I will be moving into the spare bedroom, and I would prefer not to discuss this matter any further. However, I do acknowledge my own desires, and while I do not actively seek out opportunities, I may consider them if they arise, as long as the person is not married. I would never want to inflict the same pain on someone else that you are causing me. Furthermore, it would be wise to find employment or rely on your partner to support your financial needs. The ladies are accustomed to receiving whatever they desire, but any expenses beyond basic living costs will no longer be covered by our shared bank account. I could tell that last blow had a significant impact. Charlene was always drawn to sales. She has multiple closets filled with unworn clothes. Her complexion had gradually become paler, but now she was extremely angry. You jerk. Why won't you cooperate? I still care about you and want to sleep together. This is completely absurd. Things will stay the same. This is not a choice. Now go prepare for bed. I plan to engage in intimate activities with you until you're unable to continue. Tell me you would ever reject this. She quickly stood up and removed her sundress, revealing her outfit consisting of thigh highs and 5-inch heels. I observed her appearance from head to toe. She was an attractive woman, taking into account her age and the fact that she had given birth to 2 children. If this romantic endeavor doesn't pan out, you could definitely find success at Patterson and Maine. It might be worth considering as a backup plan when you need some extra funds. That was the street corner in our small town where individuals sought companionship for the evening. She quickly grabbed her dress from the floor, clearly furious. Okay, if that's how it's going to be. Just remember, 3 months from now when you come complaining for a favor, I'll make you do something unpleasant before helping you, because it will always be necessary. She stormed off to the bedroom, ensuring she locked the door. After waiting for a moment, I forcefully opened it. She was sitting on the bed, holding her phone. Startled, she dropped the phone, revealing who she had been conversing with. I quickly picked it up and sarcastically greeted, "Well, I have obtained your contact information and will soon acquire your residential address. Perhaps I'll reach out to you at some point, and we can chat about our shared interests. Rest assured, causing harm to you is not my intention. I believe that having her in your life is already a form of punishment. Certainly, you wouldn't want to pursue a long-term commitment with her, considering her inclination to be unfaithful when given the chance." After he ended the call, I casually placed the phone in my pocket. She had managed to bounce back from her altercation and was on the verge of leaving when the girls showed up. They glanced at the damaged door frame and inquired about the incident. "Oh, you're aware that this door has been giving us some trouble lately. I believe it's somehow attracting moisture. I will address it tomorrow. You all can go back to bed." Charlene remained silent. When they departed, she began speaking, but I interrupted her. "I'll hold on to your phone until tomorrow. And yes, I will be monitoring your account on the computer. Have a pleasant evening." She was expressing her disapproval as I left. "Best of luck with that. I have my accounts secured tightly, just like Fort Knox. You won't receive anything, jerk." I smiled, aware that she had overlooked the keystroke recorder we had installed on the computer once the children reached an appropriate age to operate it. I locked myself in the den, activated it, and pretty soon the printer was working away. I had to add paper, but I got all her emails, all her searches, and everything she'd purchased in the last year. She was incredibly naive, easily persuaded into taking revealing photos that showcased a side of her I had never seen before. Eventually, things escalated to explicit images, including a lengthy video where she used a large object. The person she was involved with also shared some intimate photos and videos, but I struck gold when I stumbled upon a video of him engaging in explicit behavior and making crude remarks about their future encounters. It was clear that this material would eventually find its way onto the internet. It was disheartening to see that he was no different from me in terms of physical appearance. I couldn't help but feel a bit saddened that she didn't aim for someone better. Better yet, he worked for the county as the permit supervisor. They had met when Charlene went to pick up the permit for my workshop, which was a designated space for me to relax. Whenever I needed a break from the feminine energy in the house, I would retreat to it, playing pool or watching sports on the large television. I even had cable hooked up. During football season, it became a popular gathering spot for the neighbors to watch games together, which the wives generally enjoyed. She had to return on 2 occasions when I made additions, which resulted in friendly interactions, shared meals, and intimacy. It seemed that she didn't resist him too much, and in some instances, she even took the initiative. I securely stored all the documents, transferred the images and videos to my personal work computer, and then went to bed, surprisingly getting a good night's sleep. I was awake and in a good mood as I prepared breakfast while they chatted about school, music, and their favorite boy bands. It all blended together and I mostly tuned it out. After all, they were too young to engage in anything serious, thank goodness. Marissa, who was 13, was starting to mature and boys were starting to take notice. We allowed her to go out with groups, always supervised by a parent. Of course, they would pair off, and we allowed it, as long as they didn't make any foolish decisions. Our hope was that when they eventually reached the age to go on dates, they would have some experience to rely on and make smart choices. Darcy, or Echo as we affectionately nicknamed her due to her tendency to echo Marissa's words, was a bit too young at 11 to participate in these outings. However, we ensured that there were ample supervised opportunities for her to interact with others. In addition to her busy schedule of sports practice, dance lessons, band, and drama classes, there was always a car in motion. They were discussing their plans for the afternoon when I dropped a surprising announcement. Apologies, ladies, but due to some additional work responsibilities, I'll be relying on Mom to be your primary driver for a while. Since she doesn't have a job, I'm sure she can be available for you, right honey? If glances had the power to cause harm, I would have been reduced to a heap of ashes. However, she simply mentioned to the girls that they may need to occasionally travel with their friends. Why? What could be so significant that you would prioritize it over taking care of your children? If you have any tasks to complete, you have the entire morning, correct ladies? They agreed immediately. Yeah, Carol's mother gives off an eerie vibe, and Jenny's dad always watches us. Can you please, Mom? Charlene was frustrated and angry until they departed. It appeared that I was correct. Her secret meetings occurred exclusively in the afternoon. Her partner must have had work obligations. She initiated their rendezvous as soon as they boarded the bus. If you believe, here you are. There's a distinction between you and me. I believe, and typically it's with careful consideration. All your mental functions lately seem to be focused on a particular area. It would be wise to use your intellect instead, especially when it comes to your children. Before I go, I want to mention that I've installed audio and video equipment throughout the house. Bring that person here, and it will be shared online in an hour, regardless of the consequences. Have a terrible day, now. She was still attempting to speak as I exited the room. During lunch, I decided to review the videos, observing her frustration and anger as she searched for the hidden cameras. It was quite amusing, considering even I was unaware of their exact locations. The individual who installed the cameras advised me against revealing their whereabouts, as it could compromise their effectiveness. However, I did have the opportunity to eavesdrop on a rather intriguing phone conversation. In fact, there were several calls made, the first of which was to her romantic partner. "He's being really rude, sweetheart. He's ruined our afternoons and threatens to stop providing financial support. I discovered this morning that he has deactivated all of my cards, and our bank balance is only $280. Additionally, we have a power bill of $200 that is due today through automatic draft. We may have to go to Plan B." He appeared uneasy with an alternative option, whatever that may be. Before we pursue that path, let's allow him some time to calm down for a few days. If we abandon them at this moment, I'll be in just as much trouble as my spouse, so there's no benefit for us. Keep pursuing a physical connection with him, darling. It always helps me relax. Maybe give up that ass. I know I've got it well broken in by now. Seems like the response she received wasn't what she had hoped for. Love didn't quite work out, huh? Your solution to the issue is to engage in a certain intimate activity. How on earth am I supposed to do that? Say, "Hey, honey, I was thinking. How about you give me a good intense experience? Bob has done a great job in preparing me, so there's no need to be concerned about causing me harm." You fool, as soon as I mention it, he would realize you had already visited, and the situation would worsen significantly. "I'm starting to doubt the sincerity of your proclaimed affection towards me." He voiced his objections loudly. "I have strong feelings for you, but let's consider the practical aspects. We end our relationships, everyone will be aware of the reasons. We'll be financially strained, as neither of us have a stable source of income. Until we take action, we can enjoy our comfortable homes and fulfill all your desires, including my presence. We should take our time with this. I understand he disrupted your afternoons, but perhaps we could meet up during lunch. It may not be perfect, but it will suffice for now. Where should we arrange to meet? He stopped supporting me financially, so I can't afford to rent a motel room, and I won't engage in any intimate activities with you at your workplace. Let's meet up at your place. We'll engage in intimate activities in your bed and leave the sheets with evidence of our encounter for him to notice. It's not advisable. I haven't found anything, but he claims to have the house equipped with surveillance, and if we gather here, it will be recorded and shared online within a short period of time. I trust his statement. No, we'll just have to pause and allow him an opportunity to relax. Try switching things up and spending some quality time with your spouse. It might bring some excitement into your relationship." Things became intense after that, and when they finished the call, she appeared perplexed. Perhaps the perfect life she had imagined was being overshadowed by the harshness of reality. However, I was familiar with her personality and knew that once she made a decision, it would be extremely difficult to sway her. I couldn't help but smile when I later checked on her and found her at the computer, only just realizing that I had prevented her access. "Oh my goodness," she yelled after approximately 15 minutes. "Jerk." She recited a variety of strong language. I was somewhat surprised, as I didn't realize she was familiar with such a wide range of profanity. Curious, I decided to reach out to her and dialed her number. As soon as she answered, I began speaking without giving her a chance to respond. "Hey, sweetheart," I said, my words oozing with sarcasm. "How's your day going? You can stop tampering with the computer, as I have it secured tightly. Oh, here's another interesting piece of information for you. Your phone service will be terminated by the end of the day. Rest assured, I have purchased a replacement for you, which is expected to be delivered tomorrow. I hope you enjoy it." "You bess," was all she managed to say before I ended the call. I later listened to the remaining conversation on the surveillance equipment, which my tech-savvy friend had installed while she was spending time with her romantic partner right after I had found out about their affair. She seemed pleased when I surprised her with a brand new, high-quality phone that night. The following day, I had the chance to witness her frustration firsthand as she struggled to use it. The phone had a child safety feature that turned out to be quite useful for me. It restricted her calls to only the kids' schools, my office, my personal cell, our doctors, her mother, my parents, and emergency services. Any attempt to dial any other number would temporarily disable the phone for 30 seconds before resetting. She discovered that when she attempted to contact her partner, following the phone's reset, I reached out to her. "Hello. I assume you've realized that the phone is only capable of dialing pre-programmed numbers. It can be quite challenging to stay in touch with your loved one when you don't have access to a phone or computer. I would apologize, but I don't have a tendency to be dishonest like you. Now that you have more time during the day, I have a suggestion for you. Find employment immediately. You'll require it if you wish to make purchases. I will provide for all of the children's necessities, but you are responsible for yourself. Perhaps you'll finally get around to wearing those clothes that still have the tags on them." Once again, I ended the call before she could fully express herself. The atmosphere was quite chilly when I arrived home. She managed to restrain herself, albeit barely, in front of the girls. However, once she was certain they were asleep, we retreated to the basement, where she vented her frustrations and made various unpleasant remarks until she ran out of energy. Throughout it all, I maintained a smile. Opting for a different approach, she became emotional. "Please, darling, cease your unkindness towards me. I am not worthy of it. I want to clarify that I did not do this intentionally. It occurred unexpectedly. He's just a temporary romantic interest. I'm confident that eventually we'll grow weary of one another, and I'll return to exclusively loving you. You were unaffected until you discovered, and you will remain unaffected now. I only have a few hours to spare each week, but for the rest of the time, I am completely dedicated to you. Join me in bed tonight and allow me to demonstrate the depth of my affection for you." I think I surprised her when I chuckled. "You know, I searched for reasons for cheating on the computer. Did you know there's a website that sells a book called The Cheater's Guide? It provides various tips on how to handle personal relationships, including a dedicated section on managing potential complications. You just provided a multitude of excuses. It occurred unexpectedly. It will have no impact on us. It's just a casual relationship. It won't last long. And the offer of intimate connection, the option to please him until he forgets his troubles. And the most effective approach is to intimidate him into complying by putting his world at risk." I observed a range of conflicting emotions flicker across her face. Without giving her a chance to respond, I continued speaking. "Let's pause for a moment. Suppose I agree with your plan. What do I gain from this? I am responsible for covering all the expenses and fulfilling all the responsibilities that come with being married, with the only distinction being that I have to divide your attention with someone else. As a businessman, it doesn't seem like a very favorable deal, does it? So you have the choice to be with someone else, while I just patiently wait for you. Sorry, that's not going to work. Since you've mentioned having an open marriage, I'll be keeping an eye out. There's this very charming sales representative who visits on a monthly basis, and she has a playful demeanor. Attractive as well, and her physique is truly remarkable. She's very dedicated to her fitness routine and enjoys participating in long-distance races. She shared a photo of herself during her recent race, dressed in minimal athletic attire. She has a very fit physique, with well-defined abdominal muscles. I'm considering inviting her to lunch next week to gauge her interest. I'm aware that she notices my ring, but I'll simply clarify that we have an arrangement where we are both free to explore other relationships, and you've been involved with someone for nearly a year. Who can say? She appears to have a very open-minded and progressive outlook. I could tell that the comment about her physical appearance bothered her. After having 2 children and some time passing, she had gained a bit of weight and her body had become more relaxed compared to when we got married. Of course, it would have been nice if she made the effort to go to the gym instead of spending time at the mall. But realistically, that was unlikely to happen. She appeared surprised. Why would you want to rely on anyone else when I'm here for you? You should try to comprehend, dear. I still have strong feelings for you, and the idea of you being with someone else bothers me. I returned the favor to her. I've been around for 16 years, but apparently that wasn't sufficient for you, was it? You think I jumped for joy when I found out you'd been screwing around on me? There's a term for men who allow their partners to engage with others while remaining committed, just as there is a label for women who have extramarital affairs. The disrespectful and offensive comment has officially been derailed. Person. Perhaps it would be wise to consider that. I'm going to sleep. Currently, it is necessary for one of us to be employed. She was still stuttering as I walked out. Not a complete idiot, I realized I needed a strategy, and quickly, before she truly began to ruin my life. I used to have a childhood friend who was a bit socially awkward. We bonded because we were the only boys in the neighborhood and ended up becoming good friends. He had a high level of functioning autism and had a knack for computers and solving abstract problems. If there was anyone who could help me find a solution to my issues, it would be him. He had been creating computer games since he was a teenager and successfully sold his first one at a young age. Now in his 30s, he still resided with his parents in a large mansion, valued at 10,000 square feet. With a net worth exceeding $60 million and the tremendous success of his latest game, he was experiencing great financial prosperity. Strangely, he was married to another individual with high-functioning autism, whom I had introduced him to at a party I hosted a few years ago. She happened to be the daughter of one of my most important customers. Although she usually kept to herself, she insisted that her father bring her to the party after spending the day at a spa, claiming that something significant was going to occur. While she may have lacked in certain cognitive abilities, she was blessed with an incredibly attractive appearance. After catching sight of my friend Harry, she reached out and asked, June 17th. He simply nodded and proceeded to engage in conversation with another attendee for a brief moment, before gently tapping on a glass to capture the attention of all present. Ladies and gentlemen, I am delighted to extend an invitation to all of you for our upcoming wedding. What is the date and location of the event? He glanced at June, and she grinned, reaching out to hold his hand. Let's meet at Emmanuel Lutheran Church on 2nd Street in Broadville. Harry simply nodded in agreement when someone requested him to introduce his spouse and share the story of how they first met. He blushed slightly as she responded, "I'm June Allison, and we crossed paths at this very house during a social gathering." That was the entire story. She simply didn't disclose that it was happening presently, at this gathering. She informed him about the type of ring she desired, and the following day he gave her a credit card. She took it from that point. They had been in a relationship for 8 years now. Their daughter was 7, and my girls adored her as if she were their own little sister. It was a common sight for me to arrive home and find a SUV parked in the driveway, with the driver chatting with Charlie in the kitchen, sipping coffee. She would light up when I entered, smile, and playfully tease. Shanna, a woman of African descent, possessed great physical appeal. She had a distinguished military background, having completed 2 combat tours, and was highly skilled in 3 different martial arts. Shanna also participated in the pistol team sponsored by the local law enforcement, consistently achieving victory and earning trophies. At one point, she was employed under my supervision. I thought she was highly intelligent and extremely competent in her role, but it was evident that she was constantly uninterested. One day, June unexpectedly dropped by to discuss a social event they were organizing. Since I was in a meeting, Shanna kept her company. Unfortunately, by the time I finished the meeting, I had lost an employee. It was a successful match for everyone involved. Shanna relocated to the mansion, which was essentially a cozy apartment with its own private entrance. Despite their wealth, Harry and June didn't venture out often, and Shanna was on the verge of quitting due to sheer boredom. However, things took an unexpected turn when a misguided individual decided to kidnap a wealthy individual's child for ransom. He achieved his goal for a brief period of time before Shanna put an end to his plans by fatally shooting him as he attempted to take a sedated star away from the premises. The situation became tense as he brandished a shotgun while trying to carry the child. However, the authorities intervened and released Shanna with a cautionary message. From that point on, she took on the role of being Star's protector and caregiver. Charlie would look disapprovingly as we engaged in playful banter, and when Shanna bid farewell, she would embrace me tightly, lifting me off the ground, which always brought laughter from the others. The girls actually went on vacation with them a couple of times, to exotic places. We were invited along, but Charlene would always have a reason for us to stay home. When the girls came home from some exclusive resort they had been at, I was most impressed with the photos, especially the ones of Aunt Shanna in a revealing swimsuit. The fact is, aside from Charlie, our families had a strong bond, and I had full trust in all of them. Harry was taken aback, but June remained unfazed. I could sense it happening. She appeared preoccupied during our recent encounters, and at our most recent gathering, I noticed her sitting intimately with another attendee in the garden. She moved away when I noticed them, and I had the impression that I had just narrowly avoided witnessing her embrace him. She quickly retreated indoors upon spotting me, and remained closely attached to you for the remainder of the evening. I had something on my mind, but what was it? There is a possibility that she was engaging in romantic activity with a male individual. It fell short of my expectations. I recall that evening vividly. It was our habit to mingle separately at such gatherings, relishing the opportunity to engage with various individuals. I had observed her absence, assuming she was elsewhere in the house, until she unexpectedly emerged and remained by my side for the remainder of the night. They had been considering my issue, and we had an extensive conversation. "What is it that you desire, Jack?" "I want to keep my girls in my life, first and foremost. This is the most important thing to me. Plus, I want her to regret her actions. We're done. She doesn't realize it yet, but when she does I fully expect things to get ugly. I don't want to end up broke and alone when the dust settles." Nodding, he asked me how big my house was. They had been there enough to know, but he didn't ask unless he had an idea. We had gotten a really good deal on the house. In an older neighborhood with large lots and plenty of mature trees. We got it for about 60% of what it would normally cost, because the owner was elderly and didn't take care of it. She got enough from the sale to live out her days in a nice retirement community, and I got a 4,400 square foot 2-story house with a full basement. We got it when the girls were really young, so it was the only home they had ever known. We spent every spare dime we had for 5 years restoring it, and now it was worth over twice what we had in it. Charlie loved the place, and I knew she would do her best to keep it after we divorced. It cleared up a little when he asked about the basement. In all our work on the house, we had left the basement alone, with a vague idea of fixing it up for the girls to entertain their friends and at some later date. By my estimate, the basement was almost 1,100 square feet. Remodel it, Jack. Make a nice apartment out of it, even put in a separate driveway and have it rewired for a separate electrical panel. That way it will be completely autonomous from the rest of the house. Then come in. If you decide to separate, you will have the freedom to live in your own place and maintain a close relationship with your children. Why would she have any objections? Your lives would be completely separate. You would never have to interact with her if you didn't want to. I don't think any reasonable judge would have any objections to the plan, especially when it concerns the children. Wow, why didn't I come up with that? Because I'm just an ordinary guy, not some incredibly intelligent individuals with sky-high IQs. Shanna presented an alternative choice. I could defeat her in a physical confrontation. I could defeat him in a physical confrontation. I could completely disrupt their lives in ways that you couldn't even imagine, and it would have no connection to you whatsoever. Wow, talk about intense determination. I have a strong sense that if I let her loose, things would get quite chaotic. Let's think of that as a backup plan, Shanna. I wouldn't mind her experiencing some discomfort, but she is the mother of my children. Shall we begin with this first? Reluctantly, she gave her consent and then went to attend to the children. She seems to have developed some feelings for you, Jack. Be cautious, now that you're on the verge of being single. She's contemplating various possibilities. I glanced at June with astonishment. I had always held a favorable opinion of Shanna, but was completely unaware of her true feelings. It was quite straightforward, overall. The house was solely under my ownership, which was necessary as I was the sole earner at the time of purchase. I sought advice from multiple contractors and architects until I found the plan that appealed to me the most. Following my lawyer's suggestion, I decided to be more lenient with Charlie by providing her with a stipend. It wasn't complete freedom, but it allowed her to enjoy lunch outings with her friends and indulge in some shopping. Additionally, I arranged for her Mercedes to undergo some enhancements, such as the installation of a GPS and an anti-theft system. This upgrade enabled me to remotely disable the engine using my phone or computer. I noticed that she would spend an extended amount of time during her lunch breaks. Upon further investigation, I discovered that she would have lunch with her friends and then discreetly visit the house of a close acquaintance for some private time with her partner. I tracked the GPS the next time she went to lunch, and as soon as she headed towards her secret meeting place, I turned off the car. She called me in a state of panic. Hey Jack, the car suddenly stopped running and won't turn on. I need assistance. Where are you located? She felt the need to inform me of her location, which happened to be quite far from our residence. What on earth are you doing over there? I was planning on visiting Beverly's place. We went shopping recently and I accidentally left a bag in her car. Where is Beverly? I thought she was supposed to be at work. Indeed, however, she forgot the bag in the garage. I had a great time. Give the car another shot, Charlie. I'm confident it will start without any issues. It did, and she managed to travel about 5 blocks before it stopped once more. When she called back, I advised her that the most sensible course of action would be to make her way back home. It took her a moment to grasp the suggestion, but she began heading home, astounded that the connection remained uninterrupted. After experiencing the same issue 2 more times, she finally caught on. I captured her intense outburst on tape, which included her instructing Marissa to leave the room when she attempted to soothe her. The expression of pain in our child's eyes soothed her, but the harm had already been inflicted. They had a good relationship afterwards. When she inquired about the basement, I informed her that it was time to renovate it for the girls. They would soon reach an age where they would require their own space. She saw it as me embracing her way of life. Charlie purchased a separate phone using her funds, which I discovered and secretly placed surveillance on. It appeared that there were issues in their relationship. It seems that they had made arrangements to separate from their partners and start a new life together, living in my house while I covered most of the expenses. My actions had caused a disruption in their plans. Perhaps it would be wise to temporarily suspend our plans. It seems that he is not responding as we anticipated, and I am concerned that he may take extreme measures. He expressed his disbelief. He's weak. You have control over him because of the children. You know he won't do anything to harm them. She let out a deep breath. Maybe not them, but we're fair game. I've seen him at his work, and he can be quite ruthless when he needs to be. He's made my life very difficult, but he hasn't done anything drastic yet. You're a whole different matter. You have a very public job, working for the county. A county official, having a personal involvement with the spouse of a prominent local businessman, makes for a captivating news story. When the paper gets hold of it, you'd be facing serious consequences before you know it. And then where would we be? How would you explain it to your spouse? Or have you informed them yet about your decision to pursue a relationship with another person? There was a rather lengthy pause, and her voice carried a clear hint of tension when she spoke. I don't believe so. It seems like you may be hesitant to confront the situation. It would be best to gather the courage and communicate with her before my husband takes matters into his own hands. Although he hasn't confronted you yet, it doesn't mean he won't. He will thoroughly analyze all available information and strike where it will have the most impact. You should be prepared because it's inevitable. Now, I think it's best if we take a break from seeing each other for at least a month. We both need time to reflect, and I need to work on repairing my relationship with my husband. If we end up separating, I want him to be in a forgiving state of mind, and I won't pressure him for much. He will strive to be fair, especially when it comes to our children. I'm serious, let's take a month apart, and I'll reach out when I'm ready to have a conversation. Oh, how interesting. I was just given a gift, an entire month to wrap up my arrangements. I made the choice to utilize my time effectively. I immediately arranged a meeting with the chairman of the county commission. He and my father had a long history together, not as friends but as business partners. He simply presumed it was related to my business and accepted my invitation to have dinner. We met at a fancy restaurant in another city, and I ensured he enjoyed a delicious meal and a couple of beverages before I proceeded with my intentions. Fred, I'm considering relocating my business. Hanover County has shown interest and has a number of vacant buildings that would be suitable for my requirements. Additionally, they are providing attractive tax incentives. Fred's expression turned sour right away. The prospect of 89 jobs departing from his county was quite unsettling, especially considering that there had been recent media coverage about my business expanding and requiring an additional 30 employees. Wouldn't be favorable, especially during an election year. Why would you do that? The county has always had a positive relationship with you. I don't know what to say, Jack. With the current state of the economy, it's highly unlikely that we can offer you any special favors. I'm not seeking any special treatment, Fred. The truth is, in order to grow, the property I desire needs to undergo rezoning, and I anticipate potential challenges, particularly during the permit issuance process. Again, why? You're aware that the rezoning notices have been posted, and there haven't been any objections raised, so the voting process should be a mere formality. Regarding permits, what makes you anticipate any difficulties? Because your permits and zoning manager is involved with my wife, and he is aware that I am aware of the situation. He appeared deflated, like a balloon that had lost its air. The situation, when it unfolded, would be quite chaotic, with various departments in the county experiencing some consequences. Our local newspaper had an exceptional investigative reporter who garnered attention from national publications. He would be as keen as a detective who caught a whiff of a new lead. He glanced at the leftovers of his meal, letting out a sigh. The meal was weighing him down a bit. Are you certain? There is a video and audio recording that captures an inappropriate scene involving him engaging in explicit behavior while speaking disrespectfully to my wife. It is evident that this incident took place in his office, during work hours and using county property. What are you looking for? It would be great to have him completely taken care of. Other than that, I don't have any immediate requests. However, I do have some home remodeling plans that I would appreciate getting approved, if possible, without him being aware of it. I'll investigate the matter. I'm certain that the county believes he should participate in a training seminar. Will 3 days suffice? That would be great, Fred. I'll wait until after the elections, but then I'm going to take appropriate action, you understand. That should give you enough time to find a valid reason to remove him before I take any steps. We went our separate ways, understanding that our connection would never be the same. From now on, he would feel anxious whenever I requested a meeting. Yet another relationship destroyed because of Charlie. There was indeed a seminar, and I managed to convince the contractor to expedite the paperwork under his name. They began their journey the following day. Charlie seemed disinterested, preoccupied with other thoughts, I suspect. To her credit, she made an effort to revive our relationship. She provided me with an extensive explanation about feeling uninterested, how the children had surpassed her, and she perceived herself as less attractive. She claimed there was no justification for her actions. According to her, she coincidentally encountered a dangerous individual during a difficult period, and she promised it would never occur again. Really, what's going to happen a few years down the road, when the girls grow up, go to college and make a life for themselves, and you're here looking at four walls, bored out of your mind? You know, instead of ruining our marriage, you could have volunteered for some charity, joined a book club, or gotten a real job. That would have given you a purpose, something to channel your energy into, but you chose a friend instead. How's that working for you? I won't touch you, our relationship is on life support, and it's just a matter of time until it's gone. We won't go out with a bang, more like a whimper. I strongly encourage you to consider life post-marriage. Well, to me anyway, because it will happen. She hurriedly left the room in tears. During the following weeks, she embraced her role as a devoted wife and mother. We went out as a family, even took a long weekend, and brought the kids to Disney. I didn't like it, but the girls and even Charlie appeared to have a good time. The only time things became unpleasant was when we went to sleep. I had booked a room with 2 queen-size beds, clearly indicating that we would have separate sleeping arrangements. She attempted various methods, showcasing her body frequently, making promises of fulfilling any desired intimate activities, without any limitations. It was challenging, no joke intended, but I resisted, even gently moving her away from me one night when I woke up with her cuddled against me. That changed everything, and she returned. She was strongly suggesting the idea of ending our marriage, so I presented her with legal separation papers. Anticipating a difficult situation, I decided to pick up the girls from school a bit earlier and brought them to the park. They had grown up and sensed that something was amiss. They had also suspected that it was due to someone else's involvement, but they were unsure which parent was responsible. I kindly informed them that their mother and I were experiencing some difficulties in our relationship, and as a result, I would be finding a new place to live. They became emotional, embracing me tightly and pleading for me to remain. I embraced them until they became more relaxed. I won't be going far, my loved ones. I could never imagine my life without you. However, I am relocating from the house to the new apartment I constructed in the basement. Even though I'll still be physically in the house, I'll have my own independent space. I made sure to include twin beds in the second bedroom, although it may not be as luxurious as your current rooms. Nevertheless, it will always be available for you. Here are your keys, and I kindly request that you keep them away from your mother." They showered me with affection, glad that I would still be accessible all the time, but were still upset about the breakup. It brought them some joy when I assured them that they could enjoy a shopping trip on Saturday and have the freedom to decorate the room to their liking. Unaware of what awaited us, I instructed the young individuals to go down to the basement upon our arrival. I asked them to assess their living space and identify any necessary adjustments. When Charlie greeted me at the door with a loud scream, I knew I had made the correct choice. She became very noisy, to the point where the neighbors felt the need to involve the authorities. Following my lawyer's guidance, I refrained from entering the premises, despite the fact that it was equipped with surveillance technology. I presented the police officer with my copy of the separation papers when she inquired about the cause of the disagreement. I quickly dismissed her when I noticed a hint of disapproval in her gaze. Yes, I had them prepared to ensure a smooth progression of events. It may or may not lead to a separation, but my lawyer advised me to do this in order to record the proceedings. And although I understand you cannot inquire, it is due to infidelity. However, I can provide evidence in the form of videos and photographs if you require. She glanced at Charlie, who blushed in various intriguing hues. So what? That doesn't mean the jerk has the right to leave me and our children. Officer, could you please assist me? I convinced her to accompany me throughout the house and opened the gate of the privacy fence I had built. Charlie insisted on joining, but the police officer, being wise, requested her to wait outside briefly. I presented her with the apartment. She was taken aback when we opened the door to the girls' room and discovered them huddled together on the bed, shedding silent tears. They came running towards me and I took them into my embrace, offering them solace for a while. "Quiet down. Mom is just going through a rough time. I'm sure she has settled down by now, isn't that correct, officer?" The officer nodded solemnly, before smiling at the girls. "Your father is correct. She appears to be more composed now. Your dad and I are going back to have further discussions with her, just to ensure everything is all right." She bid them farewell and we continued our conversation once we stepped outside. "It must be difficult for you at the moment. However, you showed strength and made the right decision for your children. I don't have any specific advice for you, but prioritizing the well-being of your children is always important. If my first husband had shown even a fraction of the character you have, I probably wouldn't still harbor such strong negative feelings towards him." Charlie appeared more composed upon our return, reassuring the officer that there would be no further need for her to address any additional disruptions. She was deeply in love with me, and it was causing her immense emotional pain. "I'll give you the same advice I gave him. Prioritize the well-being of the children. Your actions during this process will shape their perception of both of you for the rest of their lives. And ma'am, remember that this is just a separation, not a divorce at this point. I'm unable to provide guidance on reversing it through legal means, so it's best to consult a lawyer. Wishing you both the best of luck." She acknowledged the officer with a wave as she drove away, then quickly shifted her attention towards me with an angry hiss. "Living room." Right away, she entered the house with force, giving me the chance to circle back, secure my gate, and enter my own home. I would install multiple locks and latches on the upper door for added security. She would need a strong tool to break through. It was the same on the recently installed lower door, and I had specifically selected it for its soundproofing capabilities. She could shout loudly from the highest point, and we would remain oblivious. The girls remained in my company until it was time to go to sleep. I reassured them that Mom was doing well, and as soon as they left, I gave her a call. "Quiet down and pay attention. The girls will be entering through the front door very soon. Your behavior towards them in this moment could greatly impact your future relationship with them. So, take a deep breath and consider their perspective." I ended the call. The girls didn't reach out, so it seems like it was a calm evening. Charlie did, in fact, hire a lawyer and used up the remaining balance on the one card I had given her. She managed to secure a private hearing with a judge. She was a woman in her late 40s with weary eyes. Witnessing the destructive behavior of families and their manipulation of their children can be emotionally draining for anyone. "Mr. Sayers, what was the reason behind your decision to file separation papers?" "Your Honor, I must bring to your attention that my wife is currently involved with another person, as she herself has admitted, for a significant period of time. Upon discovering this, she made it clear that she has no intention of ending the relationship, leaving me with no choice but to accept it. While I may have been able to handle this situation if it were just the two of us, we have two young daughters, aged 11 and 13, and I am concerned about exposing them to this kind of lifestyle at such a delicate age. If my wife disputes any of these facts, I have legally obtained video and audio evidence to support my claims, which I am prepared to present to you, Your Honor." She glanced at Charlie, who lowered her gaze. Looking in my direction, she appeared to have a slight smile. "I understand that you've relocated from the residence, Mr. Sayers. Could you please provide an approximate distance between your current location and your daughters?" "There are 26 steps, ma'am. I transformed our basement into a separate apartment during the remodeling process. It is completely independent from the rest of the house. Neither my wife nor I have any need to enter the house unless we are invited. Access is strictly invitation only. She looked in Charlie's direction. Mrs. Sayers, it appears that you have some decisions to make. If you want to save your marriage, it's important to think about the choices you've made recently. While I would suggest counseling if this were a divorce case, since it's just a trial separation, there doesn't seem to be a reason to rescind it. The separation papers have been filed correctly, so they will remain in effect. After the 90-day period, your spouse can choose to renew the separation, end it, or file for divorce. I wish you both the best of luck. We were directed out of the chambers and ended up in the parking lot. You seem quite upset, don't you? What a silly question. I am, although not as much as before. What I feel most now is sadness. I always believed that the only time we would be separated is when one of us held the hand of the other as we passed away. Now I understand that this will never occur. My anger tempts me to say that I spent my years with you in vain, but we have our daughters, so it could never be considered a waste. I quickly got into the car before she had a chance to reply. I glanced at the rear view mirror as I left the parking lot, catching sight of her in her car, crying intensely. In the past, I would have been comforting her, assuring her that no matter what, we would always support each other. Now, I let out a sigh and made a right turn. Over the next 3 weeks, we lived in close proximity, she on the upper floor, and me on the lower. Charlie was frustrated when the girls declined to allow her entry into my apartment, attempting to persuade them, but they remained resolute. Eventually, one day I decided to approach her residence. Her expression conveyed a sense of astonishment upon spotting me. I hadn't seen or spoken to her since the legal proceedings. Before she could say anything, I provided her with guidance. Join me. The girls have been practicing their cooking skills on the gas grill and prepared a meal for us. So let's go, and make sure not to ruin it for them. She obediently followed. The girls, wearing large aprons and chef hats they had found, embraced her and guided her to our picnic table. We enjoyed a delicious meal consisting of herb-ed roast chicken, grilled vegetables, corn on the cob, and a refreshing tomato salad. They also enjoyed a delicious dessert, a homemade cheesecake made from a mix. Charlie, to her credit, refrained from making any derogatory comments, praised the girls for their cooking abilities, and assisted in cleaning up after the meal. Echo gave her a tour of the apartment, including their bedroom. Marissa had developed a routine of sleeping on the lower level most nights. Echo remained on the upper floor, except during weekends. I understood that the apartment was significantly smaller than what they were accustomed to, so as a compromise, I granted them restricted access to the man cave. They had connected a gaming console to the large television, and on most Fridays and some Saturdays, they would invite friends over to spend the night, sleeping on air mattresses. Mostly girls were present, but occasionally there were boys for the evening, and a few mothers would stay with them until the boys departed. Occasionally, it was Charlie. On most evenings, we would have pizza, but occasionally the girls would cook on the grill, with me keeping a close eye on things. They would usually serve burgers and hot dogs, but if there were only a few people, they might opt for chicken or pork instead. Summer was approaching, the school year was coming to an end, so I treated myself and purchased a large above-ground pool, which gained even more popularity. Most parents were aware of our living situation, but never made any remarks. Some of the moms dropped hints, and one was quite direct in expressing her openness to pursuing a relationship. I expressed my gratitude to everyone in a polite manner and assured them that I would consider their offer if I ever found myself single. This greatly frustrated Charlie, especially when they did it in her presence. She scolded me harshly one evening after the parents and children departed. "What were you thinking? That person all but climbed into your lap while you were eating. Do you know how embarrassing that was for me? Not really. Do you think it was as humiliating as discovering that your partner was involved with someone else, and all of their friends were aware and even helped them deceive and destroy our marriage? If it is, I can relate. Besides, we may have been in close proximity, but the picnic table was quite crowded, and her daughter and both of mine were right there with us." I inserted the knife and turned it slightly, relishing her response. In addition to that, I mentioned from the start that I didn't intend to abstain from certain activities. "Were you aware that she has 3 tattoos? One of them is quite risque, but fortunately it's only visible when she's unclothed." Allison was quite outgoing, and I became aware of the tattoo when she joined her daughter in our pool, along with several other parents, for a swim party the girls had organized. Let's just say there was a wardrobe mishap that resulted in her being more exposed than she intended. She adjusted her vibrant red top as the group of us exchanged knowing smiles. Charlie appeared deeply distressed. Unexpectedly, this was a scenario she hadn't anticipated in her well-thought-out strategies. It was all nonsense. Of course, I had no intention of doing anything to provide her with evidence for the divorce when it happened. Still enjoyed exerting control over her. I made a conscious effort to minimize my interactions with Charlie, but I did keep tabs on her phone conversations and recorded her daily activities. Evidently, transitioning from having multiple partners readily available to having none for a period of 3 months was having an impact. She engaged in self-pleasure frequently. It appears that she had a large collection of toys that I was unaware of. It became amusing after a period of time, yet it remained sorrowful in various aspects. Once she was free, she frequently found herself shedding tears before falling asleep. She continued to possess her secondary phone, oblivious to the fact that I had secretly placed a listening device on it and had removed the limitations on her primary phone. I recall the surprise on her face when a telemarketer phoned, and how she quickly contacted everyone she knew to confirm that everything was working properly. She interpreted it as a positive indication that I was becoming more open, and that our relationship would improve, rather than recognizing it as the final blow to our marriage. If she had considered it, the fact that I no longer had any concern about her communication with her partner would have made her stop and think. The elections had taken place and concluded. The county manager had retired, and the new appointee assured the commissioners that he would reduce unnecessary expenses in all the county budgets. Bob was discreetly terminated. He expressed his frustration to the manager and sought assistance from the county commissioners. They encountered him in a conference room and watched the video I had provided them of him engaging in explicit behavior in what was clearly his workplace while expressing in explicit terms what he intended to do with Charlie during their next encounter. There you have it, Bob. The holder of this video has threatened to go public with it and sue the county for allowing a manager to engage in inappropriate behavior and using county resources for personal activities. To resolve this situation, all we need to do is terminate your employment without providing a recommendation. If we fail to do so, it will lead to embarrassment for all of us, potential financial consequences, and it may severely impact your future job prospects in the public and private sectors. Please take this as a valuable lesson and choose to move on. He had no other option, and the local newspaper didn't even mention his departure. He seemed to vanish without a trace. Charlie gave me a call, expressing a mix of frustration and regret. Was it necessary to do that? He has young children to take care of. How will he be able to provide for them? Shouldn't he have taken all of that into account before he decided it was a wise choice to engage in that activity with you? I apologize for the situation regarding his children, but his wife currently has a stable job, and with the assistance of child support, she should be in a decent position. His spouse is a full-time caregiver for their children. No longer the case. It appears that she has obtained a degree in accounting and was promptly hired by a local company. I've heard it's a highly desirable position. Who would have hired someone who has been out of the workforce for 6 years and given them such a good job? Me, I stated, before ending the call. Bob's spouse was a curvy, attractive woman with a constant smile on her face. I had to completely shatter her world before she finally stopped. What am I supposed to do now? His was the sole source of income for our family. How will I provide for my children? Her eldest child was at school, and the 3-year-old was enthusiastically attempting to climb all over her while she playfully tickled them. You'll join my team. I've been told that I'm a competent boss. Even if you choose not to, I'll provide assistance. It's not my responsibility for the betrayal that led to the strain on your marriage, but regardless, I feel a sense of duty. This offer comes with no expectations. My children are grown and aware of the situation, but it still impacts them significantly. I'm doing everything I can to lessen the pain, although I cannot make it disappear. If you're considering leaving, I understand. If you choose to support him, I'll keep you in my thoughts. However, I must admit, his actions seemed rehearsed and effortless, making me question if it was his first time. I appreciate your understanding and apologize for having to share this information. Should you decide to pursue a divorce, I can assist you with gathering evidence. I left her, struggling to hold back tears as she cradled her daughter. She reached out to me after 3 days. With a firm and composed tone, she informed me that he had no intention of confessing his termination or the affair until she confronted him about it. I thought he was going to harm me, and I confidently encouraged him to proceed. The resulting injuries would provide evidence for his arrest and enable me to obtain a restraining order. I mentioned that it would be a suitable resolution to a difficult situation. He angrily left, and I haven't seen him since. However, he doesn't have the means to flee because I withdrew all the funds from our accounts that same afternoon you informed me about the situation. And it wasn't purely out of spite, well, not entirely. He has 2 young children who depend on him, and I couldn't bear to see them suffer due to his mistakes. I have enough savings to sustain myself for 3 months. Is the job offer still available? She began working part-time the following week. I was impressed by her intelligence, and we reached an agreement where she would split her time between the office and working from home. This was incredibly beneficial for her when it came to taking care of children. My colleagues were not foolish, and when Charlie's photo vanished from my desk, only to be replaced by more pictures of the girls and me, they understood the situation and even offered their sympathies with caution. All except for one. Misty strongly disliked Charlie, as she believed Charlie was making advances towards me and caused a significant disturbance at a company event. Misty left in tears, and I gave Charlie a stern talking to the next morning when she sobered up. Reflecting on the past, I came to the realization that it was shortly after she began her involvement with Bob. Transference, I suppose. If she was being unfaithful, then I was too. It wasn't until I made it clear that I would stop providing financial support to Charlie for a month that she finally decided to come to the office and apologize to Misty. Misty agreed to it, and they embraced to demonstrate that there were no ill feelings. I had a clear view of their faces, and the friendly gestures seemed to be searching for a vulnerable spot. My comment: do you guys like this kind of story where the H stays firm? Comment down below, sub and bell, and I will grab a quick bite and finish part 2 in the afternoon.